All right, guys, welcome to the Fight to Finish podcast. On this episode, Sissi and I talk with somebody that we've talked about on the podcast before. We wrangled them in and they sat down and talked with us. And, at the time of filming this, or recording this, I should say, currently the whole state of California is on lockdown due to the coronavirus COVID-19. Everybody is pretty much working from home if they can or allowed to, minimizing contact. But despite that, Sissi and I are still getting great content for you guys' ears with great guests like this one coming up. We hope you guys enjoy it. All right, guys, welcome to the Fight to Finish podcast. My name is Arwin S, and with me is my lovely co-host,
Sissi.
And today we have a special guest. We've talked about him a few times on our podcast. He is the one and only Coach Sean Fender. He is Sissi's coach, right, Sis?
Yeah, so this is a coach that I've talked about before that helped me win that competition last year.
CrossFit coach. Well, Sean, welcome to the podcast. We appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you guys for having me. This is a great opportunity. I'm looking forward to adding to your list of guests.
So, Sean, for our listeners who don't know you, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like, where did you grow up? What do you do these days?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up down in Southern California. Currently, I am Sissi's coach, as you mentioned, and I work over at Google for Team Exos, where I do CrossFit coaching, personal training, Olympic lifting. Been doing that for about the last year and a half or so. But yeah, before that, like I was saying, I got started growing up down in Southern California in San Pedro, if you've ever been down that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Played football in high school. Yeah, so I went to school in Santa Cruz, UC Santa Cruz, where I majored in earth science and played some rugby there. That's where I kind of got introduced to CrossFit and went to CrossFit Santa Cruz for a few years while I was finishing up school. Got into it. I was a broke college student, so I was mopping the floors and greasing barbells to pay my way through that. Had some great coaching and really just kind of fell in love with the sport through that. It wasn't until I moved back to Long Beach after school that I kind of got into competing, and it kind of just took off from there. And I spent a few years really trying to push it and make it to the regional level, make it to the CrossFit Games as a team. Made a few attempts doing that, and that didn't quite pan out, and ultimately found Olympic weightlifting, which I've been kind of doing more consistently for the last couple of years, just focusing in on that. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell as far as fitness goes.
So at what point did you become a CrossFit coach, and what kind of led you to that?
That's a great question.
So pretty much what drove me to becoming a CrossFit coach was the fact that I didn't want to pay the CrossFit dues.
Fair enough.
I mean, there was that. There was definitely a portion of it. And I also, I just had a passion for teaching. I was a tutor, like math and science tutor through college.
Oh, cool.
And so I enjoyed coaching and teaching. And so I started looking for gyms when I got back to Long Beach. Found a gym that was willing to kind of take me on. I didn't have any money, so they helped me get my level 1, my CrossFit level 1, and then I kind of just worked for free to kind of pay that off. And then after that, I stuck around for a little while. And I bounced around to a few gyms. It was CrossFit Modern down in Long Beach. And then after that, I moved up here for a little while, and I started coaching at Marvelous CrossFit, which is now Marvelous Performance. Then back to Long Beach and did some more coaching there, and now I'm finally back here again. So yeah, it was really kind of after mopping the floors and not having to pay dues, I was like, all right, how can I make this work in the long term? And yeah, it turned out to be a great decision. I really enjoy coaching.
Nice. What was your experience like with your first client? Were you nervous? Were you just kind of like, I got this. This is easy.
First client. So, I mean, I started just teaching classes. So when I was teaching classes originally, I was a little nervous. I was pretty green. It's funny to see new coaches sometimes. Like at Google, we have some interns who come through, and I can kind of see myself in some of them. You end up trying a little bit harder. You bring a little more energy. It's a little bit of like a false sense of confidence that you just got to like thrust on the class to convince yourself that you got it.
Yeah.
And you're using cues that are all super wordy and over explaining things, and people are looking at you a little funny, but you kind of get your grounding, and luckily I had some good people to learn from there. Back at CrossFit Modern, Jason Jameson, he's a good friend of mine, and he helped me kind of. We used to coach classes in tandem. He had some big classes sometimes, and
cool.
It was great. I'd be able to learn from him, and we'd bounce off each other and just make it kind of a fun atmosphere. Definitely nervous initially as a coach.
I got a quick question. I think we've talked about this a few times on the podcast. How is Sissi as a coach?
Oh my God.
I kind of want to know, because obviously I can't be there because I can't see it. So I'm really curious to see her as a coach.
It's actually been a little while since I've seen you coach, Sissi.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we're on quarantine, so that's been a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
I took one of your classes right before the end, didn't I?
Which class was it? Was it this year or last year?
No, you talked about it recently. You talked about
in January.
Yeah, you talked about one recently. Yeah.
Maybe January.
But no, Sissi's a good coach. When we were starting off, I could see a little bit of like I was talking about, where sometimes you're, you start talking, not necessarily you, but like people in general, we'll start with a cue, and you start going down a train of thought, and then you're like, kind of forgot where I was going with this, but you stick with it. And then you kind of circle back to something that makes some sense, and people are nodding, and you're like, okay, all right, I think that worked. But you know what? It's tough, man. CrossFit athletes, they will give you like no feedback. Like you're like looking for acknowledgement on their face. Like, did they understand what I just said? And they just blank stares. So, but no, Sissi's been really good. I think she's, because she was shadowing me for a little bit, which really just turned into, she was coaching my classes for me.
Okay.
And, which was great. No, but she definitely gained some more confidence as she continued to learn more about the Olympic lifts herself and some of the more complex things. But yeah, I think you're a good coach. We should take another class together as soon as the
quarantine's
over. And my shoulder's no longer messed up, and
that as well.
When I stop hating snatches, that's never going to happen.
Well, hold on. Before we get too far and Sissi, starts asking other questions. You said earlier you got into like you're doing your primary focus now is a lot of Olympic lifting. What are some of your numbers pre-quarantine?
Pre-quarantine.
Pre-quarantine.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
because I feel unless you're getting after it at home,
yeah, I'm not. Unfortunately, I do not have a barbell. Like I showed you my place before this. It is like the size of a garage, because it's built on top of a garage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Let's see. So I was snatching around like 260. I'm still bad with kilos. People are gonna but 260 on the snatch, and then 320 was what I hit in the last competition I did on the clean and jerk. So in the neighborhood of those. But yeah, I'm a little hesitant to see what it's going to be as soon as
it's over.
This is all over.
Out of curiosity, which has been a harder discipline to learn, like the CrossFit movements? Obviously, it's all kind of interchangeable, or has it? A lot of the technical movements in Olympic lifting really been the biggest challenge for it. Because I think, for me, being from somebody that does like jujitsu and then start getting into CrossFit and then doing some of these Olympic lifts, I'm like, there's a lot more technique than I thought initially, right? And it becomes easier and easier the better and better my technique is. And I'm not trying to say that I'm the greatest. Sissi has seen me literally during the open smash a barbell on my face.
Yeah. It happens.
So, which has been the hardest to learn, really? Was it just the CrossFit, or like really diving deep into the Olympic lifting has been really the toughest?
They both been challenging in different ways. And I think each discipline, CrossFit and then Olympic lifting, they were both better suited for better periods in my life. So CrossFit's difficult in that in order to become really good at it, you have to put in a lot of volume. You have to just do a lot of work to simultaneously get stronger, get faster from a cardio, vascular, muscular endurance standpoint to be able to last longer. And all that stuff just takes a lot of time and a lot of volume. As I've gotten, more involved, and I'm in, paramedic school now, and I'm coaching a lot more and kind of supporting myself more, it's harder to put in that much volume. And so that's where, like, Olympic lifting, you don't need quite as much. You don't need 2.5 hour sessions per day to get it done. I mean, if you consistently put in an hour to an hour and a half, if you're efficient, you can make strides, you can make gains for a good little while. And maybe that's just because of where I'm at in the sport. Maybe I'm still getting some of those beginner gains. But I suppose that's probably my answer.
Yeah.
Neither one is necessarily harder than the other. It's kind of like, what flavor of shit sandwich do you want to eat? So.
For sure.
I want all the flavors.
Oh God.
So Sean, as a coach, what would you say is your biggest pet peeves with clients? And if I do it, let me know.
Ooh, I want to know. I want to know.
Okay, so there's really only one pet peeve that I have that when I see people, it just makes me cringe. And it's only because I believe that everybody can fix this thing. And it's when I see people rowing with really bad form, like on the Concept 2 rower.
Oh.
And it's a very narrow pet peeve, but it just shows me a kind of laziness. And I'm just like, please fix this. It bothers me more when I see people's personal training clients and they're rowing poorly, and it's just such an easy fix. I don't know. That's my.
And you just want to stop it and fix it, and you're just like, please
stop it and fix it, and show people what they look like. That's probably it. Let's see, something that maybe Sissi might do.
Oh yes, please.
Oh yeah. Arwin would love to know this.
I don't know. I mean, Sissi shows up ready to work, and she even if she's tired, somebody can tell when she's tired, but she won't, it doesn't show up in her work ethic. She'll still put in her.
When she's show up to work. Yeah. When she shows up to work, she might be tired. I get what you're saying. And,
but it never shows.
Once she starts working, it's like, okay, I couldn't tell you were tired. Yeah. I get that. I've seen it hurt, in the competitions too. Like the fitness competition. Like I could tell she was tired in between rounds, but when it was time to go, she kind of just let whatever adrenaline or whatever energy she had left, she just kind of put it out there.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
I don't know. Yeah. I argue with Sean a lot.
You argue with him?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Okay. She gives me a little sass.
Yeah.
Oh, a little sass? I'm married to her. Do you imagine how much sass she gives me?
I'm sure you get so much.
Oh, yeah. All the time. For no reason. I'll be sitting there and I get sass. I'm like, I'm on my phone. I'm not even doing anything to you.
Yeah, I can remember kind of like the first time she started sassing me, like, oh, we must be like real friends now. Yeah, I think maybe that was after I came to your wedding. I think that's when the sass got turned up a notch. Oh. And I'm like, all right.
Yep. Cool. Sounds about
I'll take
right.
That as a sign of
friendship. Yes.
We never talked about this. We haven't even talked about our wedding yet, but maybe for our listeners. So Sean was there. What did you think of our Nerf war concept? Because during our wedding, we kind of surprised everybody we told everybody to bring their own Nerf gun. But if you
Yeah.
didn't, we still had a bunch.
We had some, which it turned out some of them didn't even work. We're like, dang it.
Yeah, I got saddled with one of those. I'm like, oh, it's gonna work. No, I thought that was epic. I thought that was a great battle. It was very intense.
Yeah.
Then when the water balloons came out, I think that was my favorite part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it definitely was one for the books for me in terms of not only did I get I got totally soaked. Never mind.
You did.
I got totally soaked, but when we were cleaning up the day after, there was just darts everywhere.
Yeah.
I was like, how did it get all the way over here? Anyway.
But there were a couple of you guys that had like these Nerf guns. I was so stunned. I'm like, where do these even come from? These are not kids' toys. These are like they were intense.
Oh yeah, some of my
Well,
buddies
it's because Arwin's friends, they all used to play airsoft together.
Yeah, we used
That was like their thing, and so they're all like, guns, we need the best Nerf guns.
Yeah.
So they splurged a little bit and went on the upgrade.
I guess that'd be one of the great things. Like once you have kids, you can justify some of those.
Believe me, it's in my my tool bag to do that when we start having kids for sure.
It's a good tactic.
I was going to ask you something about that wedding. Oh, there's this video of you, Sean, and you're like throwing this water balloon, and I was like, holy shit, Sean can throw a water balloon, because it does, like, it didn't just like go straight, it had like this curve, and I think it ended up hitting Arwen.
What?
And I was like, that was a beautiful throw. We gotta find it, remember?
I don't remember.
I'll have to find it. It was in one of the videos. I think it was like from someone's phone.
Oh.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, put me down on your team next time as well.
In terms of, that brings a good question. You played rugby you said college, right?
Yes.
How much is that athleticism translated into what you're doing now with CrossFit, and now you said you're in, paramedic school? Like how much is that athleticism in your youth played a role into your current occupation?
Yeah, I honestly quite a bit. I mean, my youth was always, so I'll just let you know, like as a kid, I was pretty reckless. My friends' parents they cringed like when some of the things I would come up with. And I've got some scars to prove it.
Oh,
but yeah, I think, some of those things, and then football, and then into rugby, and then into CrossFit, it's kind of been like learning risk assessment in real time. So figuring out, you make a mistake, you get an injury, or you break something. Maybe it's not necessarily your body, and you learn from it. And those lessons have definitely stayed with me. There's things that I don't do, or there are things that I used to do that I don't do anymore that I kind of attribute to, the trial and error of life. Life in general. Yeah. So, and I think in firefighting, there's definitely like a risk reward to like a lot of things, and you got to kind of, be able to weigh those out. And so having kind of a well-calibrated, risk detection device is good. As far as like specific examples, I mean, rugby was great. It actually, getting injured in rugby is part of how I found CrossFit. I injured out like my second year playing, and then I was, over the summer, ended up finding CrossFit, just looking for something that I could do, to kind of get myself ready for the next season. And I just kind of never went back. Oh, but,
why?
Yeah, I enjoyed CrossFit too much, I think. And I just never wanted to injure myself and take myself out of it.
Yeah.
After I found it. So, yeah, nice. I don't know. Did I answer your question?
Absolutely. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think, there's a lot to be said about having, find as reckless as you said you were. I think there's great value in that experience in terms of, kind of figuring out like, oh, hold on, that was stupid. Maybe I shouldn't do that again. And now as an adult, you're like, oh, okay, hold on. Like you said, risk assessment, you're able to kind of translate your own experience of like whatever, jumping off of something and being like, oh, okay, hold on. That's not the wisest thing. But even now, even, you as a coach can be like, hold on, I've been there before. That doesn't look good. Maybe you should pump the brakes there a little bit. You know what I mean? So, no, that's absolutely a great answer.
So along the same lines of getting injured, obviously there's that stereotype about CrossFit and how everyone gets injured because CrossFit's super dangerous and you don't do proper movements and kipping pull-ups aren't real. And right, there's like all these stereotypes that come with CrossFit, but yet you still see people, they like look at CrossFitters like, I'm going to talk hella shit about them, but I kind of want to be one too, but they're intimidated to do it. So, what would you say to someone, or what advice would you give someone that's wants to try CrossFit, but they're kind of scared, either because they don't want to get injured or because they don't want to be made fun of? Because, as soon as you join CrossFit, everyone's like, oh, you're one of those.
Yeah. I feel like some of that stigma kind of waning. It's getting a little stale. People been making fun of the CrossFitters and calling out the injury rates forever. I mean, I don't know if you caught that. There was, oh man, when was it? But CrossFit actually just won a lawsuit against the national, one of the governing bodies. They were claiming the injury rate for CrossFit was super high.
Oh,
and yeah, they got awarded millions of dollars for essentially libel.
Oh, I think
it was the National Strength and Conditioning Association.
I think I saw that. Yeah.
Anywho, so it just goes to show that like some of those claims that people were going off of, is all based on kind of these false statements by, bad actors.
Yeah.
As far as, any sport is going to be inherently risky. There's risk associated with anything, and the biggest or the best thing you can do is just try to find the people that are invested in keeping you safe. And so shop around for different gyms, try them out. I mean, if you have any experience with gyms or personal trainers or anything, you probably have at least a little bit of a calibration for whose heart is in the right spot, who's trying to just make a buck, or who's gonna, push you to have good form and develop your skills in the right progression and not, jump ahead 3 levels just so you can get that Instagram picture.
Right.
Well, I mean,
so I
got a question. What makes a great CrossFit coach then? I mean, what standards do you uphold that makes you so? I'll be quite frank with you. Sissi worked with a number of trainers in the past, and she's seen nowhere as close up to the success that you've brought her. With doing personal training. I mean, she's worked with a few, and honestly, she hasn't been any. She's really just happy with the progress she's made, and the coach. She's really impressed with your coaching style. So I guess, what kind of standard do you uphold for yourself that makes you such a great CrossFit coach, or just a coach in general? Like, what do you strive for?
I guess me, it's mostly about the movement quality. I'm always trying to push people to find whatever pattern of movement is the best version that they can do. Everybody's got different bodies, different, limitations that may or may not be fixable.
Yeah.
But there's still a best squat for any given person, a best overhead press, a best anything. And as long as you're just kind of unrelenting on those standards, people will get better. I think a lot of coaches sometimes allow athletes to go for that max weight or keep pushing, further than what their body's ready for.
Yeah.
So kind of just understanding and, relaying to your athlete that once you get injured, you're going to make way slower progress than, any slight slowdown that I might give you just to hone in your skills and your form. I think just mainly focusing on movement quality is kind of my my cornerstone.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else.
Well, I mean,
I make all my athletes do Olympic lifting, and I make them do gymnastics, which is kind of like the foundation of CrossFit.
yeah.
And I think those two things, Olympic lifting exposes any mobility issues that you have. You're not going to be able to do a snatch and an overhead squat if your shoulders are crap, if your, if your ankles are just totally locked up.
Yeah.
So it kind of helps you kind of like, troubleshoot and diagnose like the little bits and pieces that you can, start to work on. And then the gymnastics just helps you get some body awareness. There's so many people who just don't have any idea what their body's doing in space.
Well,
I see it when I make people go upside down. I mean, they have all the strength to do it, and they don't know what they don't know what their hands are doing. They're just, their feet are upside down, and I'm like, all right, straighten up. And then they like arch more. And then it's like, okay, so let's bring it to the floor and slow it down and see if we can figure out what your body's doing.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big part of it too.
Yeah. That's awesome.
What are some things that you've seen in people that, like maybe they haven't been to the gym in a while, or people that have never really been to a gym or worked out before? What characteristics have you seen in people that are successful versus people that end up just kind of like fading out and they stop showing up?
Well, let's see.
So are you asking like what makes someone stay in the gym, keep at it longer?
I mean, what characteristics do you see in a person that ends up being successful in the gym versus someone who kind of gives up?
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. I think the people who give up versus the people who are able to stick it out, one of the biggest differences is, are they comparing themselves to the other people around them? If they come to the CrossFit gym and, they're in a class with a bunch of fire breathers and they feel inadequate because they just started, the odds are they're probably not going to stick it out, versus the person who kind of has some humility, knows they're coming from, from a place of, they know how they got to where they were, right? They know that they made some choices, and they've been sitting on the couch and they've been working, they've been raising a family, they've been focusing on their careers. Like, those are all perfectly fine things to do. You just have to realize, while you've been doing that, these people were focusing on health and fitness. One's not necessarily better or worse, but you have to realize that, that's why you're starting from ground zero, and that's why they're at level 10.
Yeah.
And so you just have to kind of have some humility and, the classic check your ego at the door, and then just put in the work and just come in every day and try not to overdo it, pretty much.
Yeah. I think, that a lot can be said in, like, at least with my experience through jiu-jitsu, right? It's very humbling when you can get choked out by a 90-pound girl, even at that, and it's just like, oh, hold on. You kind of, like you said, check your ego at the door. You're honest with yourself and like, okay, you know what? I'm only here. Well, I'm here and at my current state because there's no excuse for it, right? And I'm going to work at it to get better. I may not be like the XYZ, gym guy, but I'll be there. I'm one step closer than I was yesterday, by showing up. So, yeah, great.
Yeah. And I think you got to kind of take the whole package into account. Maybe you can't do the ring muscle up or, whatever it may be, but you also have 3 kids.
Yeah.
You also, you just bought a house this year, and like all of these things are
contributing factors for sure.
Yeah. Contributing factors. They're part of your life. Nothing's happening in a vacuum. So.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
So kind of shifting gears here, you're also a volunteer firefighter.
This is true. Yes.
And so maybe you can explain to us the difference between what a volunteer firefighter does versus what like a full-time career firefighter does.
Sure. So our department actually is up here in Kings Mountain is a little different than some other volunteer departments. We're actually like our own entity. We have our own fire engines, our own water tent, our own rescue. And so we respond to calls kind of in our neighborhood here, alongside a career fire department just down the way. But we're kind of just augmenting that ability. You know, we're a remote community up here, so response times would be a lot lower.
Yeah.
People's, fire insurance would be a lot more expensive. There's some things, and we've just been around for a while. About 35 years, this department's been around, and with it comes some other perks. We have like a community center that's kind of tied to the existence of the fire department. In some other places, volunteer departments are part of career departments. Mm-hmm. So there might be like in Half Moon Bay, there's a volunteer component to the existing coastside fire. So they'll come out on like large scale events. They might, they'll send out the alarm. They'll get a text or their pagers will go off, and they'll, augment them. As far as like career firefighters, they're, obviously coming in day and day out. They've got 2 days on, 4 days off, versus us as volunteers. We just have a pager. We're all at home. And if it goes off, then we respond if we can. If, sometimes life happens. Maybe you've had a beer that night or something, or, your girlfriend or your wife is, needs you to stay. And it's like, there's no like obligation. It's just kind of the right thing. It's really, the expectation is just that you respond when you can, and when life gets in the way, you don't necessarily have to. So there's a bit of a balance there.
I had a question, and maybe you can help clarify. So, with firefighters, and I'm speaking generally, not directly, at you, firefighters, paramedics, EMTs. Actually, what's the biggest difference between a paramedic and an EMT? Because as a firefighter, you are a first responder, or as firefighters, they are first responders, and oftentimes on a medical emergency, a fire truck would be called. Like, what's the main difference there between a paramedic and an EMT, or is there a difference?
So in California, most fire engines have a paramedic on there. So they're an advanced life support ALS unit. So that's why they're typically, that's the reason why they have them, is because they're typically the first ones on scene. So if there's, advanced maneuvers that need to be done, like some things that paramedics do that EMTs don't, they can start IVs, they can administer drugs, they can intubate, and a handful of other skills that they learn over the course of like the extra year and a half of training that they receive. And then your EMTs, so there will typically be EMTs on the fire engine as well. Some cities, they just have firefighter EMTs, in which case, the fire engine might still be the first to show up, but they'll just be doing kind of basic life support until the paramedics show up in the ambulance.
Got it.
So paramedics can be on a fire engine, they can be on an ambulance. And then in California, every firefighter is essentially at least an EMT.
Got it.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks for clarifying. Sorry, Sis, I know you have a question in the queue.
It's fine. Go ahead.
But in terms of, I just want to draw it back. Like, why did you want to pursue becoming a firefighter in addition to being a CrossFit coach? If you don't mind me asking, what led you to becoming a first responder? Because it is very much it's a tough job, right? And you pursuing and becoming a volunteer firefighter is a big step in that.
I guess, I mean, for me, it kind of comes down to helping people out. I've always been interested in finding ways and levers you can pull to kind of be of service to people. So, whether that was when I was tutoring in college, or then CrossFit coaching, and then ultimately I found the volunteer department and decided that I wanted to do this full time. I guess it's all just kind of like part of the same vision of how can I find ways to help people.
Yeah.
And then, CrossFit is all about preparing yourself for the unknown and the unknowable. It's kind of the old like CrossFit credo.
Yeah.
And so I kind of think of firefighting as like the kind of the reason to train. So, for me, CrossFit and training, I think there was a time where it was just about, or wasn't just about, but it was a lot about trying to be competitive and go in that direction. But now for me, it's more just about being ready for whatever comes my way.
Yeah.
And so kind of firefighting falls in line with that.
I respect that. That's awesome.
Very cool. What would you say has been the most challenging part of the journey so far?
Well, it's been a longer journey than I thought. There've been some moments that have, I won't say set me back, but just kind of taken me in a different direction as far as life goes. Just made the process a little bit longer than I thought. Let's see. But even that wasn't too bad. It's the thing with firefighting, anybody who's gone through it, and there's plenty of people who, it took them 5 years, 6 years more to get on with the department. And it really comes down to, as long as you don't give up, then you're, unless you have like a felony on your record or something like, that's just unforgivable, that just keeps getting you derailed.
Yeah.
Then as long as you don't give up, then it'll happen eventually.
Yeah.
You just got to keep doing all the things, keep finding, and really just, find a way to enjoy the journey. So I've been personally like looking into ways to keep doing that. So, ways, I enjoy learning. So paramedic school is actually something I enjoy. Various like volunteer opportunities like the fire department or some other things I'm doing. It's, it's all part of the journey. As long as you don't give up, you'll get there eventually.
That's kind of a really key thing I've been hearing a lot of people say, and even in my own past stuff that I've done in myself, as long as you keep at it and enjoy the journey, I think your future is kind of just very bright. Even pitfalls that you might encounter, you kind of take it with stride and use those as opportunities to grow.
Yeah.
Is there anything that surprised you that you didn't expect when you started as a volunteer firefighter?
I didn't expect.
I don't know. Maybe you thought you'd be rescuing kittens and you don't.
Haven't rescued any cats. Yeah, no cats in trees.
Because I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah, not quite as many fires as I thought. There's lots of fires. I think I was surprised at how much I liked the medical side of things, and I thought I was more of like the fast paced, the adventure and stuff. But I really enjoy some of the calls where I've kind of connected with people, empathized with their situation, and got to see like a window into, the worst part of people's lives. Not that that's enjoyable, but to be able to help people on some of their worst days is pretty rewarding. And I mean, I guess that's not super surprising, but it was definitely something that I noticed on a few calls that I'd been on. You come out the other end, you're like, oh wow, that was really meaningful. So
yeah. Do you and maybe this is a personal question, too personal, and it's it's okay if you don't want to answer. Do you find yourself having to compartmentalize some of the stuff you've seen, or is it like you kind of learn from each one?
Yeah, I haven't had to compartmentalize anything yet. I definitely, I mean, I do learn from them, some of the tougher calls.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm still waiting, I think.
Got it.
That type of
call or
that type of call that's going to get to me.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked with other firefighters who've
Yeah.
been doing this a lot longer, and everybody has that group of people that really gets them. So maybe for a lot of people, it's calls that involve kids, or maybe somebody who resembles a family member, or it could be a mass casualty incident. I mean, there are just certain things that hit people in different ways.
Yeah.
I guess I'm still
too green.
Yeah, still too green, right? I haven't had that yet. Haven't had enough.
I mean, I think, for sure. Random, and this is, you'll probably get a kick out of this, but recently Sissi took up a new show because she likes she likes to binge watch Netflix a lot. It's not
on Netflix.
What is it on?
It's on Amazon Prime.
It's on Amazon
There's nothing
Prime.
left on Netflix.
Oh, you've gone through the whole Netflix?
Well, there's not that many good shows on Netflix anyways.
Wow, Netflix is going to straight up just like...
Well, we're clearly not sponsored by Netflix. I mean, after Friends was gone, it's like, what's left?
Oh my God. But the new show that she's on, that she's currently binge watching, is called Chicago Fire.
Yeah, that's true.
And she is all up on it right now. And I know TV's gotta have a lot of drama, in it, but if for our listeners, and me, if you've seen it or haven't seen it, check it out, Chicago Fire. I found myself
the executive producer is Dick Wolf, so I'm just gonna put that out there. If you like some of the other shows that he's done, then...
Is who?
Dick Wolf.
Dick Wolf.
Yeah,
okay.
It's a funny name, but he shows up on not CSI.
No, Law and Order. I believe he does Law and
Yeah,
Order,
yeah.
which is also a really good show.
So anyways, but if you haven't seen it, listeners, and you, Sean, if you haven't seen it, Chicago Fire.
It might annoy you, Sean.
I have not seen it. I will. You said Amazon. Okay, I got Amazon. I'll check it out. I got a little bit of time right now.
Yeah. So, good segue. Now that we're kind of, again, for our listeners in the future or whenever you're listening to this, currently the state of California is in lockdown, meaning we are all self-quarantining. A lot of us are working from home or, other. And I think you have a valuable insight here, not only as a CrossFit coach, but as someone with some medical knowledge, right? I don't want to convey that, you're a medical expert.
Epidemiologist.
Yeah, yes. I want to convey that. But I think you do have some little bit of insight more than the layman like myself of what can the person at home, that CrossFit athlete, do at home? And B, what are some safe practices for someone that does decide to venture out to grab groceries? What's some of the preventative steps they should take?
Okay. Let's see. So I've still been programming for the CrossFit community at Google, and I'm trying to look at it a little differently. I've put some workouts on there, like, over the course of the day, just accumulate this many push-ups and this many sit-ups. This many air squats, some of the basic movements there, but I think you can do things differently when you're at home and you're trying to work and you're distracted by kids. Like maybe you're not going to get or maybe you don't have the attention span to do, 45-minute hour workout, but maybe you can just get some activity in throughout the day. Just little spurts here and there. So I've been playing around with that myself. I put up this pull-up bar in my house that I showed you guys earlier. I was very excited about. And just doing some pull-ups here and there, some hangs every time I pass it. And then also, I've just been watching all the CrossFit communities on social media have been putting stuff out there. definitely check it out. I think CrossFit West Santa Cruz has been putting out some great workouts. CrossFit Chalk, they've been putting out some great workouts. You got to find whatever sparks your interest.
Yeah.
It really comes down to just keep moving. I mean, this is all about maintenance right now. We're not trying to
PR.
PR, setting goals. Like, it's just about maintaining, making yourself feel good, staying healthy.
Yeah.
When we come out the other end of this, then we can hit it hard again and try to set some PR, set some records, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Let's see. I had one other thing I was going to say. I saw some workouts of people working out with friends and stuff. So I saw CrossFit Chalk had this workout. It was like 50 rounds for time with a partner. So you could, Zoom or FaceTime your friend and be like, you do a round, I do a round, you do a round, I do a round. And I thought that was really cool. Just a way to, find a workout buddy, keep each other accountable. And then the last thing I'll say, so this is a little bit based on theory, but I can't remember where I heard this, but right. So this is a respiratory ailment.
Yeah.
So yes, we want to work out at home, but we don't necessarily want to be pushing so hard to the point where we're getting like that burn in your throat, that like Fran lung, right? That kind of stuff is actually going to make you a little more compromised, so that if you did contract something, like, it might actually, make things worse. So just keep it below that level of intensity, and a nice steady pace throughout your workout, instead of like spurts of trying to crush it.
I know, we're all getting weaker together, so it's okay.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, who said that to me? Was that you, Cece?
Yeah, I said it. I was like, your percentile will still be the same.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point, right? Wherever you are, everybody is also decreasing. If you feel like you're losing strength, don't worry, you're still in the same percentile. Yeah, that's great.
Well, out of curiosity, do you remember your first CrossFit workout?
Oh man. No, I definitely don't.
I
know some people have like that classic.
Yeah, like my first was like, not mine personally, but like, you hear them go like, mine was Fran or whatever, and you're like, fuck, that was your first?
I do remember my first CrossFit Open workout.
Oh.
I think it was in 2012. CrossFit Open 12.1. It was 7 minutes of burpees, and maybe your listeners will correct me on that. But yeah, 7 minutes of burpees to a 6-inch target.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, I remember I was just like flopping myself on the ground on those burpees, and just like, I was literally bouncing off the floor and like jumping back up. It's actually a very effective.
What was your first workout? Do you remember, Cease?
I think it was Fran.
Really? Oh boy.
I think it was. Yeah, thrusters and pull-ups, right?
Did we do that?
Yeah, you made me do Fran.
I did?
Yeah. It was horrible. It was horrible. It was really, really terrible.
Yeah. So yeah, you remember that feeling at the end of Fran?
Yeah.
Where your lungs were burning and it tastes like pennies?
Yeah, it was, God, you had me do, it was like really lightweight too.
Yeah, it might have made you do like empty barbell Fran or something.
I think we had like the training barbell, and then maybe like fives or something on fives and and 2.5, something like that. Yeah, it was that. It was like really lightweight, but I was still struggling. And then we had like, it was like banded pull-ups.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
I remember that. That was horrible. And I was like, why am I doing this right now?
Yeah, maybe I'll pull up your sheet. I think I still have the records. I can find out.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere. It's like way down there, like
super
at the beginning.
Yeah.
So going back to the volunteer firefighter thing, do you have any interesting stories you can tell us?
Interesting stories.
Obviously,
like maybe you were searching for a lost hiker and you came across a bear.
What? What?
Oh wow, that'd be cool if I had that. No, I haven't encountered any bears. Oh, although let's see. I mean, we've had some hikers. Oh, I had the guys on shrooms. That was funny.
What?
Yeah. I mean, we were just there and yeah, these guys were, we were hearing reports all day of there's some hikers like running through the open space naked and kind of, I don't know if they were harassing people, but just, and they were on shrooms. So they were causing a bit of a scene. And so some of my colleagues, it was a busy day for some other reasons. So we kept hearing the radio traffic of, like, hey, we're getting reports of these guys. And so the mid-pen rangers were looking for them. And then ultimately, they got them and they just have them there, no shoes. Like one of them was missing a shirt. They're just like a mess. And, it's a classic. Like the cops were they just wanted to put them in the ambulance and like send them. They didn't want to arrest them. So
yeah.
Just like so they called us and we were kind of like the first medical, apparatus on scene. And then another some paramedics and the ambulance showed up and they ended up taking them. But yeah, it was just some of the things they were saying. I'm trying to remember what they said.
Were they naked when you found them?
They were not. I think there was, I don't think I was on the call, but I think there was a naked guy who was in a similar situation. I think that one was We get a lot of people who come up to this neck of the woods to do hallucinogenic drugs.
I bet.
Yeah, that was a good call. Everybody was okay, right? So
yeah, of course. Yeah. They're just,
Have you ever had to use the jaws of life?
I personally have not. I mean, just in training, we have the spreaders and the cutters. Together, they make up the jaws of life.
Yeah.
And yeah, I haven't had to use it on a call yet. Some of the wrecks that I've been on, we were able to kind of just pop the doors open. So.
Well, that's good when you don't have to use extra tools.
Yeah, for sure.
I got a question for you. Going way back, or something you alluded to earlier, maybe we can expand on just a little bit on this, is you mentioned that you were kind of going after the competitive side of CrossFit. You were, I would consider you now an elite athlete, but what's it like being an athlete going after the games? Like, I know that was, like you mentioned earlier, that was a different part of your life, but like, what does it take, do you feel, to become one of those upper echelon athletes in the sport of CrossFit?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing is it takes time. It takes like a level of commitment and discipline and being okay with, skipping some other things. So, there might be some trips that you wanted to go on. Well, you got to train. So maybe you're not going to take that, week and a half long vacation or, you got to train on Saturday morning. So you're not going out drinking with your friends on Friday nights.
Yeah.
I was always decent with like moderation. So I always tried to, still have fun and enjoy people. But I definitely noticed that I definitely missed out on like some things, some Vegas trips and some of that kind of stuff that, so you just got to know what you're getting yourself into and realize that that's kind of what it takes.
Yeah.
And especially now, I mean, the sport has grown so much. I mean, when I was trying, they still had the regionals and they were taking, 60 athletes. And then the next year they dropped it to 48.
Yeah.
And then they dropped it to like top 20 in all of California. And so it's just like this moving target of what it took to qualify for the regional level, at least.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, now if anybody who follows CrossFit, it's like everything's completely different.
Yeah. But I think that's a recurring theme that we're hearing in interviewing some of these people, a lot of people, is, you got to make those sacrifices. You're not going to like the decisions you have to make in terms of, life, right?
Yeah.
You can't, or even like the discipline to eating and staying in a top tier physical shape. You've got to make those sacrifices. Is it worth that cookie? Is it worth that ice cream? Right? Obviously, I'm going to say yes, it's worth that cookie. But
And I mean, sometimes it is. There are definitely some cookies out there in the world that have to be worth it.
But like Matt Fraser says, hard work pays off. I mean, you just gotta work at it, and you gotta stay disciplined at it, right? So, no, I think even now your current situation with volunteering, right? Like you said, you got to keep at it, and you got to enjoy the journey. And there's going to be some sacrifices you have to make along the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, it's kind of related, not really. Do you think that Matt Fraser, assuming that the games don't get canceled this year, do you think Matt Fraser will win the games one more time?
I mean, I got to go with history here. I don't see any reason why not. I don't see him slowing down. I don't know, unless you guys know something I don't know as far as injuries or something, but I think, these CrossFit athletes, some of them just have that mental orientation that makes them able to do it over and over and over again. And I feel like Matt Fraser's got that. It's the same thing that Rich Froning had. It's just this like unrelenting desire to train, really.
Yeah.
I think Matt Fraser, from what I've seen from him, he seems to really enjoy the journey and just enjoys training and kind of he seems like a kind of a
introvert.
Very introverted, individualistic. This is kind of his craft. So I see him doing it again. Yeah.
What do you think, Sis?
I don't know.
Yeah, what do you think?
I think it depends, because I'm curious to see how hard everyone's training with this whole COVID-19. Like, are they still training as hard as they normally do? I have no idea. I think he can do it. I hope he does. I'm rooting for him.
Yeah, I think he's got a killer garage gym, from some of the stuff I've seen.
Yeah.
On Instagram. So this is where you get momentum. When you've won this many, he is a professional athlete now. He's got, whatever he made from the last however many years he's won now. That just keeps that momentum, just pushes you forward. Now he has the ability to just train full time. He's got everything he needs. He's not getting shut down like some other athletes are. People who go to a traditional CrossFit box.
That's true.
Don't have access to a gym right now.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think he's got an advantage in all this.
Yeah. I think it'll be interesting to see, especially with Noah Olsen getting so close to getting that first place last year. I think he's hungry for it, and I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what he brings to the table. But I think because Matt Fraser has won so many times, people that target on his back just keeps getting bigger and bigger every time he wins.
Yeah.
Someone wants to be like, no, I'm going to beat him.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see.
The CrossFit Games are in July. I hope they go.
Yeah, I think it's end of July, beginning of August. But I mean, who knows with coronavirus?
Oh man,
I know
it's crazy times for sure.
Who knows what happens? I mean, how long is this going to last for? Who knows?
Yeah. Is the coronavirus hitting you guys hard as far as your normal life goes?
It's been interesting.
Yeah, I think the biggest for me is adjusting from I like the separation from home and office for me. Mm-hmm. So the whole kind of coder work from home thing is new to me. So not that I code, but the working from home aspect. So adjusting to home, just adjusting to working from home has been a little bit of a battle. It's a lot more comfortable than it was the first 2 weeks. I think I'm adjusting, getting better at it, but I've had to bring everything essentially from my office to here just to make it kind of work, right? Cease has a little setup going.
I do have a setup going, and it's been really interesting. It's hard because now my personal life, my work life, and my gym life is all in one place. And so I'm just oh God.
Yeah.
It's it's when I leave work and I'm done with it. And then I go into the gym setting. I'm okay, cool. Now I'm in the mindset of working out.
Yeah.
But when it's all in the same place, it's so hard to
escape.
Yeah. like, it's hard to get into that next mindset because you're technically still in your workspace, but you're also at home, but you're also at your gym. So it's hard to get into like the right mindset.
I know. I've been trying to think of ways to, to hack myself into, getting the mood. I don't know if I need to put something on my calendar or maybe we'll need to set up a workout from home, voice call or something, or a video call. Because I'm also falling prey to this. I'm like, man, it's hard to get the motivation to train.
I know. And there's so many cookies and chips and.
Oh, Sissi didn't tell. Well, number one, maybe this is a good segue for this. We do have a YouTube channel, and well, it's just basically the podcast overlaid with some video.
Yeah,
that's all that is. But we did a
quarantine episode.
Where Sissi and I basically taste tested a bunch of different chocolates or candy bars.
Candy bars, yeah.
So if any of our listeners, hold on. This is going to be a big debate, but
technically, I guess you won.
Right, go ahead.
I think technically Arwin won because I did sort of cheat.
Win?
Well, so the way we set it up was her sisters basically gave us. We had to guess which. By the way, our listeners, you guys can watch it, F2F podcast on YouTube. But basically, the setup was they would feed us or hand us identical plates with a piece of candy bar on it, and we would have to guess which.
We were blindfolded.
We were blindfolded. We had to guess which brand it was. We couldn't touch it. We could, only basically try to shovel it into our mouth. And so we had to guess. And there was some that we were kind of really surprised what they, when we guessed and it was wrong. We were like, oh, crap. For me, the best candy bar, it's always been the best candy bar for me, is Mr. Good Bar.
No.
That's good. Is that the one with like little Rice Krispies in it?
It has some crunch. I think it has some almonds or something in it.
Okay.
Yeah. Sissi's was.
I liked the cookies and cream.
That's classic.
The Hershey's.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's good, but I don't know. I don't know.
It's so good. You can't say no.
Yeah. How about you, Sean? What's I think Sissi's told me that you like, you're a sweets guy like myself. What is your go-to kind of sweet or favorite candy bar?
I mean, I've been doing a lot of dark chocolate. I think I eat that. I can convince myself that it's not necessarily candy. It's like
it's good for lowers your blood pressure, right?
Yeah, so I do that a bit. Let's see, what are some of the brands like XOXO or
XOXO? Me and Sissi are looking at us. I'm like, what? We've
never tried this before.
Yeah. Or endangered species. That one's a good one.
What are these? What underground candy bars are you getting, and from where?
You can find like Whole Foods.
Oh, okay.
Let's see, like mainstream candy bars. I will probably a big caramel guy. I was a big Carmelo when I was a kid.
Ooh, those are good.
Okay, we're doing a candy bar run later.
Alrighty. So kind of to wrap everything up, so this is like kind of a question that we ask everyone kind of at the end of our podcast. Is there any like advice that you would give to past Sean? Whether it's like you from when you were like 5 years old, or even if it was you from last year.
Let's see. I mean, I probably tell myself to just like care less what other people think. I don't think I'm like a huge. I've kind of learned that over time.
Yeah.
But it would have been nice to just learn that sooner. And just there's probably some opportunities that I missed because I was caring too much about
what other people thought.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's, in retrospect, even for past Arwin, I could simply like, man, you shouldn't have worried about that. Yeah, I get that. I'm very much related. I can relate to that. That's pretty good advice.
And then on the flip side, is there anything you want to know from future Sean?
Future Sean. It's so hard to know. I don't know what I don't know, you know?
Yep.
Let's see. I guess I'd want to know if I had my priorities in the right place.
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah. So like should I change my priorities on anything? It might be what I would ask.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's specific enough, but
No, that's good.
Future Sean might know something about that.
Yeah, exactly.
That is a good answer. I'm like thinking about that. I'm like, dang.
Yeah. You have your priorities in the right order. Yeah, I always think of this story of like, you know, you never hear people on their deathbed saying like, oh, you really should have worked more. I wish I would have worked more. That would have been right. It's always like people wish they would have spent more time with their families.
Yeah.
Or built relationships or traveled or whatever. So
Yeah.
I try to just like think about that now. I guess.
It's good.
Yeah.
Well, Sean, where can people follow you?
Oh boy.
Where, you know,
If you have any social media that they can follow you on. If not, that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, I've got social media. I've actually only recently just started using Instagram again. I mean, I've basically been on like a 1.5-year hiatus up from it. But yeah, you can find me at Fender Le Bender. That's on Instagram. Other than that, I mean, I don't really use anything else.
I know. I told Arwin the other day, I saw you post on your story, and I was like, what? Sean posted something on his Instagram story?
Well, people called me out, right? There was these like Instagram challenges going around.
Oh, of course. I saw those too.
And, yeah, so I'm like, all right, I don't want to like be rude. So I guess I'll get back on.
So if you guys want to motivate Sean, definitely tag him in an Instagram challenge.
Yeah, hey, I will do it. I probably have most of what I need, and if I don't, I'll just make something up.
There you go. Well, Sean, thanks for taking some time out of your day to talk to two goofballs. One being your client, Sissi.
No, it's good to hear from Sissi. I mean, we used to hang out like all the time at Google. So there's a handful of people that I'm definitely missing now that like work is shut down, and Sissi's one of them. So
she's definitely missing. Yeah, you and and working out at an actual CrossFit facility. She's
I know.
Missing.
I'm just like, I have nothing at home, and everyone's like, they're like, you have stuff. I'm like, it's all for upper body, which is like the one thing I can't do right now.
Yeah.
I have like my rings. I have my TRX band. I have
we have some
dumbbells.
We filled the
You
sandbags.
like the sandbags, right? You can do some like
I do. I have the sandbags.
Deadlifts.
Yeah, we did that the other day. That was fun.
Well, again, thank you very much, Sean, for joining us. And
no, it's my pleasure.
Everybody, go follow Sean on Instagram
and tag him in like all the. He loves burpees, by the way, so you guys should definitely tag him in burpee challenges.
you know, I'm really cocky about my burpees. That's
you are. I know.
Yeah.
You do fancy burpees. He doesn't just do burpees. He does like these fancy fly over the bar.
Oh my gosh. I'm the inverse of that. I hate burpees. I absolutely, I absolutely hate them.
Well, I don't think Sean loves them. I think he's just really good at them.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't love that. Okay. You challenged me to 10 burpees. Here we go.
I think anybody that loves burpees is a sociopath.
I think that's true.
All right. Well, thanks, Sean, for joining us. And
thank you, guys. Please enjoy your quarantine. Stay safe out there. Don't touch your face.
Don't touch your face.
Don't touch your face. That is the name of the episode.
Don't touch your face. I like
with
it.
Sean Fender.
Know what you're doing with your hands. All right.
All right,
Take
Sean.
it easy, guys.
You too,
Cool.
man.
Thanks, Sean.
Take it easy.
All right, bye.
Bye. Well, that was a great episode. If you guys want to listen to other great episodes, please check us out on Instagram. F2F Podcast is our Instagram handle. Of course, we're also on YouTube, as we mentioned, also known as F2F Podcast. And you can check us out online, f2fpodcast.com. And you can also hear us anywhere where you can listen to podcasts. So thanks so much for joining us today, guys.